Hey, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most iconic gangster films ever made, Martin Scorsese's Goodfellas. We are going to unpack the shocking true story, meet the real-life crew, and break down that signature style that made this film an absolute legend. That line right there, that's everything. It pulls you right into this incredibly seductive, unbelievably dangerous world of the New York mob. And that one simple desire? That's the spark that ignites this entire story, all told through the eyes of one man, Henry Hill.
But here's the thing you gotta remember. This isn't just some made-up movie plot. It is the real-life account of Henry Hill, an associate of the Lucchese crime family who eventually flipped and became an FBI informant. The film's real power? It comes from its shocking authenticity.
So where did this all come from? Well, it's all based on the nonfiction book Wise Guy by a crime reporter named Nicholas Pileggi. This guy spent years covering the mob, so he knew his stuff. He actually worked side by side with Scorsese on the screenplay, and they had one goal: skip the Hollywood romance and show the life for what it really was, a chaotic, thrilling, and in the end, a totally self-destructive ride.
Okay, let's get into the good stuff. The crew. The film is absolutely jam-packed with unforgettable characters, right? Each one is a cinematic icon. But what gives them that chilling, authentic feel, that sense of genuine danger? It's the fact that they're all based on real people, and in a lot of cases, people who were way more dangerous. First up, we've got our narrator, our guide through this whole mess, Henry Hill. He's the guy taking us along for the ride. And to prepare for the role, the actor Ray Liotta did something pretty incredible. He didn't just read books. Get this, he listened to hours of the real Henry Hill's actual FBI wiretap tapes, just to nail his voice and his whole personality.
Then, of course, you've got the charismatic but absolutely ruthless Jimmy Conway, played by Robert De Niro. His character was based on a real-life mobster named Jimmy the Gent Burke. You know, the kind of guy who was charming one minute and then a stone-cold violent criminal the next.
And, how could anyone forget Tommy DeVito? Joe Pesci's Oscar-winning performance was based on the terrifyingly unpredictable Tommy DeSimone. This guy's temper was so legendary that even other hardened mobsters were afraid of him. So for a while, man, these guys were living like kings, totally above the law. But their ambition just kept growing, and it pushed them toward this one single massive score. This event, it marks the absolute peak of their power, but it's also the trigger for the violent downfall that was just waiting around the corner. The Lufthansa heist. This was their masterpiece. $5 million in untraceable cash. It was a massive score that should have set them up for life. But instead of security, all it brought was paranoia, greed, and a whole lot of blood. This was the beginning of the end. And what's just wild is how fast everything came crashing down. The heist set off this bloody wave of paranoia. Jimmy Burke, terrified of loose ends, started systematically murdering almost everyone involved. And that trail of bodies led directly to Henry's own arrest less than 2 years later. So you've got bodies piling up, a long prison sentence staring him in the face, and Henry Hill realizes he's completely cornered. Fearing he was next on Jimmy's hit list, he made a choice that broke the mob's most sacred rule, the code of silence. He decided to talk. He became what they call a rat. He flipped, becoming an informant and entering the Federal Witness Protection Program. Now, this program is a really important tool for law enforcement. Basically, it's a deal. You testify against these powerful criminal groups, and in return, the government gives you and your family new identities. For Henry Hill, it was his only ticket out.
But here's the incredible irony of it all. The program saved his life, sure, but Henry's gangster ego just couldn't handle the one thing it demanded: anonymity. Think about it. For a guy who built his entire life on being a somebody, the idea of becoming a nobody was just too much. After the movie came out, he was so proud of it that he started telling everyone who he was, totally blowing his cover. The FBI had no choice but to kick him out of the program.
Okay, so we've talked about the what, the incredible true story. Now let's talk about the how, the filmmaking. This movie is a masterpiece because of Scorsese's insane, immersive style. He doesn't just show you the gangster life, he basically straps you into the passenger seat and hits the gas. A perfect example of this is that incredible Copacabana scene. We follow him and Karen right through the back entrance, past the line, through the kitchen, treated like absolute royalty, and it's all one long, unbroken shot. What that does is it makes you feel that intoxicating power, that access, that privilege that he's feeling.
And a lot of that realism you feel comes from the fact that Scorsese let his actors just go for it. A ton of the dialogue was improvised to make it feel more real. That includes this terrifyingly tense scene. Joe Pesci actually based it on a real-life encounter he had with a gangster. You can feel the genuine danger because, in that moment, it was real for the actors.
And that raw, authentic feeling bleeds right into the unfiltered language. Now, the sheer number of swear words isn't just for shock value, it fuels the film's frantic, non-stop pace. It's a style that someone perfectly described as feeling like a cocaine high. The camera, the editing, the dialogue, it all mirrors the chaotic high of the characters' lives.
And because of that crazy, unique style, Goodfellas immediately stood out. And it sparked this huge debate that film lovers are still having today. Which one is the definitive gangster masterpiece, Coppola's The Godfather or Scorsese's Goodfellas?
Look, at the end of the day, there is no right answer here. As one person put it, it's like comparing Mozart to Pink Floyd. The Godfather is this slow, grand, operatic myth about power, seen from the very top. Goodfellas is a fast, realistic, almost documentary-style look at the lifestyle, told from a street-level soldier. One's a classical symphony, the other is a catchy pop song. They're both masterpieces, just different kinds.
So, if there's one thing to really take away from Goodfellas, it's this brilliant balancing act. The film pulls you in with all the glamour and the intoxicating power of being a gangster, but it's ultimately a stark cautionary tale. It shows you the paranoid, brutal reality that guarantees it will all inevitably come crashing down.
And that really leaves us with a big question about the whole gangster genre, doesn't it? Why are we so drawn to these stories? Is it the fantasy of power, the idea of living completely outside the rules? Or is it the grim but really compelling cautionary tale of what happens when you do? What do you think?